Hi everyone, hope you can hear me. It's great to be back on this marvelous stage. Hope I don't forget how to do it. Let's see. My name is Sebastian Malaca. I'm a huge fan of quality, code and application, software quality. Why I'm saying about this difference? What's the difference between code and software quality? So let's imagine your user, customer, wants you to deliver the calculator. And you are writing really terrible code. It's difficult to maintain, but it is possible to divide, multiply, and so on. So you are delivering the calculator. Code quality is really low, but software quality is really high. On the other hand, the same user wants you to deliver the calculator, but you are creating masterpiece, like really marvelous architecture, your favorite one. Everything is tested, coverage is beyond the, okay, it cannot go beyond 100%, but it's really high. No static analysis issue, but you are delivering to-do item tool. So code quality is really high, but software quality is really low. Why I'm telling about that? Because this is how domain-driven design strategic patterns can help you to decrease the gap between your understanding and the understanding of your customer. So what we've got in the agenda for today, a little bit of theory to build a common ground for all of us. I will present you a problem, and I will try to explain why it's the problem. And then we will do the best to solve that problem, to make it better. Okay, so a little bit of theory. What is domain-driven design? Just to give you a brief explanation. I'm dividing that into 3 steps. The most important part is this, understanding. When you are using domain-driven design patterns, regardless they are strategic or tactical, you are gaining better understanding of your business. So it means there are greater chances that you will deliver the calculator, not something different. Another thing, the language. You are building, once you understand what you need to deliver, once you finally understand the requirements, the words that your customers are using, you are start to use the same language. The knowledge, it's reflected in your spoken language. And the last piece is representation. So if you understand the concept, if you know the words, you are start to using them in verbal communication, in written communication, in your documentation, if you've got any documentation, and in your code, which is great because it's harder later to forget about this language. And there is also another aspect. If there will be someone who must be onboarded into your project, since you are representing the language in your artifacts you are creating, the onboarding process is easier because you are not telling them about, I'm just Java dev, so we are not telling them about Java, about streams, Lambda, etc. They know that. Or if they don't know it, they can learn that, I don't know, on Stack Overflow, Google, whatever. But your domain language, the business you are supporting with your application, this is something specific. In many cases, this is something new. That's why it's really cool to represent it. So this is, in essence, my understanding of domain-driven design. Regardless the patterns you are using, all of them gives you that. Some short split, how to divide the patterns. So there are strategical, ubiquitous language, bounded context, context maps. I will focus today on ubiquitous language and bounded context. So about communication, about talking with each other, understanding each other. And we've got also tactical patterns, aggregate entities, value objects, factories, repositories, and few more. Why we are even dividing those JDD patterns? Because why it would be great to use them all. Yeah, I read about bounded context, ubiquitous language, aggregates. It's cool, fancy, trendy. It would be great to put everything into my code base, into my platform. Yet, the purpose is similar on high level, but it led us to introduce different artifacts. So, what is similar between strategical and tactical domain-driven design patterns? They are mostly about boundaries. Well-established boundaries that are consistent and that are protects external internal things from the impact from external world. So this is all about boundaries in case of strategical and in case of tactical domain-driven design patterns. The difference is on the scale. So strategical DDD we are using for the high-level separation. Naive approach, but this is really naive, it's to have an idea how to create your services, how to organize your modules, and something like the components, whatever. Of course, due to other like non-functional requirements, you can do something different, but for the baseline is really good. So this is where you can use strategical DDD. And it's not only for new projects. Like I love to work on long-living projects that are sometimes frustrating, but strategical DDD patterns let me to find out what is inside of this monolithical application. Why I'm using DDD patterns? Because usually those monolithical applications have got really difficult to understand the code. So by leaving the code and start talking with people, to understand what our application is supposed to do, and by creating, on the very beginning in my mind, boundaries, I can learn more. Another thing, tactical DDD, is about writing the code. So this is where we've got aggregates, entities. This is about persisting objects somewhere. So this is also about context, but those, not context, but boundaries, but those boundaries are more detailed. Okay, so short about differences. Let's jump to the pattern. Ubiquitous language. Vocabulary shared, used, and represent during our conversation. Ubiquitous means, let's say, everywhere. And that was my first mistake when I started to learn DDD patterns. Ubiquitous was misleading for me. I thought that it's about finding the language I can use everywhere. So most probably some of you already work on huge platforms, and I thought that ubiquitous language means I will find a concept and I can use it in that feature of my application, that feature of my application, that feature of my application. It was a mistake. Ubiquitous language means it's represent everywhere. So in spoken language, in written mails, in written conversation, and so on, in the code. This is the essence of ubiquitous. And it's consistent inside some boundaries. And then we are jumping to bounded context. And this is the clue of my whole presentation, bounded context. Those are boundaries of our language. It's not trivial to find them because depends on amount of details, boundaries can move from one side to another. You can introduce contexts within the context if needed. From the implementation perspective, separate models. And this is tricky if you are working on monolithical application and you've got multiple contexts in your application. Because it means that if you have got, let's say, astronaut, and this word is correct in multiple contexts, you should have many objects that under the hood may represent similar, similar data, most probably different behavior. Maybe there will be physical astronaut behind all of those words, but within each and every context, it will be treated differently. Hopefully, it will get easier to understand after the presentation. What are the contexts? Domain-driven design. It can be our bounded context. If I will tell you, okay, so let's talk about domain-driven design. I will use entity. I will use a word like value object, aggregate. You know what that means. If I will tell you, let's stick to the entity. If I will tell you, let's talk about persistency, and I will use the word entity, you can treat it a little bit different. Because entity in domain-driven design context, it's not the same as in ORM context. And we can have other contexts, school, bank, geography, shop, and so on and so on. This means it's not only about words like astronaut, speaker, presenter, laptop. It's also about interaction. So I may have the same presenter, But depends on the context, the word will be correct, but I can use it differently. If I'm in the context of speaking, I'm using the pointer, I'm using that to change my slides, and so on and so on. But if we are in the shop context, this is yet another product. It's described, but it's weight, price, and so on and so on. Still the same speaker, but the context changed the meaning. How we are interacting with the item. Another difficulty is, yeah, we may have a context geography, like mountains, seas, countries, and so on. But I can have a different context, continent. I'm forgetting about the seas between them. Okay, I can go even farther, Europe, then Poland, Krakow, Hotel Metropolo, JDD conference can be my context. Track 1, this room can be my context. How to find out where we are depends on the amounts of details you need. The more details you are putting into this item, the greater chances that this is a context, not something, some like persistable aggregate entity within bigger context. So this is tricky. Ubiquitous language is consistent set of words, group of words, interaction, and you can easily find that group is fine. The words are somehow working with each other. In example, buying, selling, shop. Okay, if I'm in the shop, I can buy something. Maybe there is someone who wants to sell something. Maybe the shop itself wants to sell something. Anyone have a clue what is not the context in here? Which boundaries are wrong? Yeah, exactly. Castle, hugging, pen. We cannot find the connectivity between them. They are somehow not working with each other. This is something we are using our intuition, and it works. In many cases, this really works. Of course, I can find some tricky example when they will work together. But if I see something like that, let's use my intuition and tell my business stakeholder, I don't get it. I don't see how it works with each other, how it interact. If I will ask that question, they can either explain how or tell me, yeah, you are right. In that case, you are right. This time you are right. It doesn't work. Great. I'm learning something new. I'm building better understanding of the domain I need to support. What are the benefits? We understand each other. We can explain what we know, and the feedback is in two directions. Because if I'm using my intuition to tell you that I don't see how it works with each other, I know how to ask the question. And on the other side, the stakeholder, name it however you want, stakeholder, customer, business, there is someone who's supposed to give you the answer. They can elaborate. So you are removing the gap between two of you. There is a great saying, quote, from Alberto Brandolini, who once said that this is not this is developer misunderstanding, not customer knowledge that gets released into production. And this is that gap we want to decrease. We want to have better understanding of the domain we want to support. Thanks to that, I can get back to my business and tell them that this feature cannot work, not because there is some private key on my database that doesn't allow me to modify this object and this object. Business don't care. To be honest, I can really understand them. I can explain them why it really doesn't work. You cannot sell second presenter if you had only one. Okay, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, or I can buy another one and then sell it. Yeah, you can use their words to convince them. That was a little bit of knowledge base. So let's jump to example. Our business. Let's do some analysis together. So we will, let's say, analyze the shop. There are some cool features that can be in the shop, Allegro, OLX, whatever. product selling, buying products, and so on and so on and so on. We will go through a couple of them. Don't read it. We will go through them anyway in a second. So I will try to find words that are behind those requirements, some interaction that are hidden in those requirements, so that I can later map that into my application. First try is without, like, how I did it in the past before I dive deeper into communication itself. So first try, registering new user with logging a password. So we've got logging password user, but as I said, the language is not only about words itself, the terms itself, it's also about interaction between them. Okay, so we've got a couple of words. Okay, so far so good. Creating an employee. As regular developer, I'm looking at creating an employee account. Okay, cool. Account employee creation, because Sebastian said so, so I'm listing all of that. And then I'm trying to simplify. Yeah, we are simplifying. It's thanks to that maintenance of our application, it's easier. So let's simplify. I don't need an employee. I already have a user. So if I will have some logging and registration page, employee will be yet another role. Yeah, makes sense. So let's stick to the user. Forget about employee. Creation. This is some specific type of registration because each and every person needs to have an account anyway. So we need to create an account for them. Yet, for those users with the role employee, someone else needs to register them. Okay, we are simplifying. We are just get rid of two unnecessary words from our vocabulary. Let's move further. Adding product to the storage. Storage, something new. Adding, something new. Product, something new. Cool, we are leaving that. Placing the product on the shelf. Placing product shelf. Okay. Forget about placing, because let's think like real developer. So I will have my shelf entity, object. There will be some set of products on the shelf. So I will add the product to the list. It can be identifier, whatever. But I'm adding that to my persistable object. So let's forget about placing. Let's stick to the add. This is what will happen under the hood. So let's keep it simple. Putting online basket product. Let's do the similar action. So instead of putting, I will add. You can replace that in, I don't know whether you heard some time ago about setters and getters, maybe. So you can replace that with setter. We are setting the products. Cool, no problem. We are setting products into online basket, into the shelf, and into our storage. How hard can it be? Let's move on. So we've got another requirement. Customer pays for the products. So we've got a customer, payment, product. Okay, so is it new? Payment is new. Product is something that I already have. Cool. So let's stick to these words. We've got customer, but it will be a user. Yeah, some authenticated user. It won't be our employee. It will be customer, but we've got enumeration, so we can sort it out. Yeah. And paying the supplier, product, payment, supplier. So we already know the payment. We have it here. We already know the product. It was everywhere. And the supplier, once again, it's nothing but the user, but with different role. So this is our domain model. And going through that requirements really fast could look silly. This simplification could really look weird, but believe me, in the bigger application we are doing, the greater chances are that this is the way of thinking you will have. So we will create such domain model. What is the problem with that tricky thing? You can introduce encapsulation. Forget about setter-getter. With that domain model, you can really have a great isolation of your objects. You can really achieve that. You can introduce your favorite architecture. I don't know. Did you heard about hexagonal, clean, onion, whatever? You can have it with that domain model. You can use command query separation, microservices, saga patterns, whatever with that domain model. So where's the problem. What's the real problem? Because within the time, it's becoming more and more difficult to maintain. Why is that? Because you are losing the information. You don't know, right now you've got huge user with multiple roles, and you don't know which well-encapsulated methods of this user belongs to which role. Or maybe there will be additional complexity of adding multiples if somewhere to validate whether in that place you can use this user because it may be in different role. Tricky. So you will introduce additional complexity, not because of broken implementation, because this is cool. Yeah, everyone says that this is really amazing. You won't introduce additional complexity because of the business itself. No, you are introducing additional complexity because we wanted to simplify. And that simplification can lead to the problem. There are some complexities, essential and accidental. What is essential? And to be honest, accidental, this is something you won't avoid. Essential means there is amount of details I need to solve the problem. If there are, 3 information or 30 information, and I needed them all to introduce the solution, if I will remove 2 of them, I'm losing something. After that, when I will remove 2 of those information, I will be not able to find out how I come up into the solution, how I even invented that, and I will lose the information that led me to this solution. Or from the other perspective, we can also go too far. If I will introduce additional information, more and more, it means that there will be noise. There will be white noise that will always only give you a false impression that, okay, this is complex, I can understand that, but firstly you need to filter out what is not needed. So going into the 2 direction is wrong. But in most cases, we've got a greater tendency to do a simplification. Because our life is quite hard when I'm speaking about maintenance of the products. Doesn't matter what kind of language you are using. Doesn't matter what kind of architecture, testing approaches, and so on you are using. If you have got, 5, 10, 20 years of experience, there is really great chance that going from one project to another, you are using the knowledge you gain on the very first project. If you are a Java developer, most of your projects were Java related. If you are using Spring Boot, there is a huge chance that in many applications you were using Spring Boot. The tricky part is the business we need to support. This is usually something new. That's why it's so important to take a real care about that. So what we are missing in here, we are missing a few words. And that took me, 10 minutes to go through few requirements. So just imagine how many words, interaction, you are hiding, you are throwing away when you are developing your application for 5 years. And 5 teams had to support it. And within each and every team, there is 5 developers. Really tons of information. User is not only user. We lost the names of the interaction because not everything is adding. We made product too big. This is tricky one. Why we made product too big? Because we are using one product, and I will use product differently when I'm putting that on the shelf, when I'm placing that on the shelf, when I'm adding that to the storage, when I'm putting that into the basket. There are different type of information required from the product to do specific interaction. I will elaborate about that in a second. There are a couple of heuristics that can help you find boundaries. Date. One word. Each of you just thought, what does it mean? Each of you. Each of you have got an answer. The problem is, there is high chance that within that group, not each and every answer is the same. So date can be a fruit, it can be a relationship, it can be a calendar. And only by telling you about the context, this is unique word. I cannot start the conversation. Let's talk about recent date. Okay, this date or this date, you have no clue. But if I will start, okay, I'm hungry. I really would like to eat some dates. There is no problem. There is no collision. It's uniquely identifiable word. The context gives that word uniqueness. So this is one thing. If you are talking with your stakeholders, and believe me, in big application there are situations that you've got a word and it have got multiple meanings. The good example is receiver. You can receive an email, you can receive a payment, you can receive a product in online shop. Another thing, the same word refers to the same entity, but different usage. So it's Sebastian. I'm Sebastian Malaca, just to remind you. So if you are thinking about usage of Sebastian, you can think, okay, these guys at least read something about JDD because he could give a talk about that. This is what you can think. But there are different contexts. If I'm with my daughter, with my wife, in my pod on the conference, there are different types of interaction. And to be more precise, even the name of the interaction can be differently interpreted within different contexts. If I will tell my daughter, let's draw something, she will think about new Marvel comic book characters. Well, yeah, let's draw something. Let's take pencils, markers, and so on. That will be great. If I will tell in my pod, let's draw something, they will most probably think about some diagrams, architecture, and so on. There may be different interaction. I can speak in here. Sometimes I'm not allowed to speak in here. I'm doing damages here, but those damages are different in here, different here, different here, different here. One word that refers to the same entity, but context gives you a lot of information. So this is another thing, another way to find boundaries in your context. Yet another one. We are using the same data and different words. So name, like Sebastian Malaca, address, where I live. Sometimes, maybe some of you already face this difficulty to find the correct name for something. So I'm facing from time to time such challenge. And if you don't know, there are situations, if you don't know how to name it, it's worth to see in what kind of context you are using this set of data. And if they are consistent, if you are using them always together, you can look for the names starting from the context. That will be the same string, Sebastian Malaca. Few fields for address. Here, 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 the same data, but the word that will describe them is totally different. This is another way how to find boundaries between your contexts. And the coolest one, this is the one I shown you on the very beginning, no interaction. This is the greatest one. Of course, it may be misleading because lack of interaction doesn't mean, other way around, doesn't mean always lack of interaction. Sometimes I cannot see it. So whenever you spot something like that, it's worth to ask a question. Okay, how they are interacting with each other. If your business also tells you, no, we are using pen when we are drawing, we are hugging when we are celebrating yet another MVP released on production, we are working to build a castle based on our MVP sales. And another hint, I think this is the last one, various names used for one, like it can be, in that case it's an actor, but it can be anything, used in a consistent process. So let's assume Sebastian Malaca walks into the shop. I want to buy something, presenter. So when I'm entering the shop, I'm a customer and I'm looking for the product. This, yeah, cool, but too expensive. I don't like the color of that, and so on and so on. Once I finally pick something, I'm going to the cash register and I'm a payer there. Still, the same Sebastian, who started his journey as a customer, I'm becoming something different. Then, let's assume I requested to get this presenter via, I don't know, InPost. Crazy, but why not? So there is delivery. In that case, Sebastian Malaca, who wanted to buy a presenter as a customer, pay for that as a payer, is a receiver now. Still the same Sebastian Malaca. That's one process. We are buying something. And of course, I can receive broken device. So in that compliant context, I'm a consumer. I check that. Most probably this is the correct word. So if I see something like that, if within one process, business process, I'm changing the name of entity or of the actor, most probably we are talking about different contexts. So let's fix it. Let's fix something that we broke. User login, registration, password stay as it was. Creating an employee account. Account employee creation. We are not changing that into user. Why is that? Because user is someone who have got an login, password, some credential, accesses, and so on. Maybe this is someone who is subscribed for some notification. This is what I understand when I see a user. Employee is a person that we need to pay. There will be some agreement related to this employee. And this thought process starts because I'm using different words. I don't need to explain you. Of course, details will be different. But if I'm telling you, okay, there is an employee, there is already a thought process in your head. And if I really want to talk about employee, and I will use the word user, I'm misleading you. Because the thought process will be totally different. You will think about the different interactions, different opportunities, different challenges, and the different data set. And the same with the creation. Registration means someone enter our page and want to register themselves. Creation means I need to create that action. I really want to show this interaction. Another, adding product to the storage. So this is similar, not an issue. Let's go to the placing. So adding product to the store means in the store we didn't have a product. After adding that to the store, we have the product. Cool. Right now, placing product on the shelf gives me some different information. If I want to place the product, it means I already have that in the store. If it was requiring some sort of validation, let's say someone need to open the box and check whether the product is not broken, I know that if I'm placing the product on the shelf, this was already done. The product is fine. So that's a first thing. Another thing, this product is a little bit different than in here. If I want to put product on the shelf, what I'm interested in, I don't know, category. Like if you go to some grocery shop, usually you will find the tea next to the other teas. You will find the coffee next to other coffees, and so on and so on and so on. So when I'm placing the product to the shelf, I need to know about the product. Most probably some sort of identifier, the name maybe, but most probably category. In here, when I'm placing the product in my store, I don't care about category. I'm looking at different aspects of the product. What is the size of the product? What is its weight? Whether it's fragile or not. Can I put many boxes on top of it? Or it should be on the very top, the last box. This is the set of information I'm interested by looking at the product when I'm thinking about the storage. And similar thoughts process is about online basket. So if I'm putting something in the online basket, it means it was already on the shelf. Usage of the word gives me already that information. And the same with the product. This product is something different than in here. It's something different than in here. Because here, I don't need to be really interested in its weight, whether it's fragile or not. I know that I need a presenter. So I will check whether it can connect with my laptop, whether how long it can be used without charging, and so on and so on. Those information are needed here for me to make a decision, but are not needed here, not needed here. So it seems the product in here, and here, it's different thing. It's represented differently. And also, another hint, interaction tells us, this is another hint for us. So here I can put the product, place the product, add the product. Also, different type of interaction. A customer pays for the product. So once again, customer is not the user, because customer is someone. If I will tell you, this is our customer, you already know this is someone who gives us money. We love those people. Another thing, the product, I won't repeat myself. So here, from product for simplicity, I need the price of this product. I don't care whether it's a presenter or not. I don't care what is the weight of that. To pay for that, I need a price, and that's it. Paying the supplier. This is tricky, because firstly, this is not a user. Payment product, this is something we already had on the previous requirements. This is not, as I explained second ago, this is not the same product as in here, but customer is also paying for the product. So here we've got a supplier, we are paying him for the product. Customer is paying us for the product, but there is no interaction between supplier and the customer. Something is broken. I can validate, okay, is that product, and here, I'm using the product here and here in the same way? Yeah, I care about the price. Nothing else matters. Payment, yeah, we are transferring money from one place to another. Cool. In here and here, those two words are consistent. But here, supplier, customer, no, there is some proxy, let's say, in between them, the shop. We are paying our suppliers, customer is paying us. So we are missing some part, because sometimes when customer is paying us, customer is in this role, and we are in here. And when we are paying supplier, supplier is in that role, and we are in the role of customer. So we are missing words that will be consistent with those two additional concepts, payment and product. So we can have receiver and payer. Yeah, it makes sense. Sometimes supplier, when we are paying supplier, the payer is shop and the receiver is supplier. Sometimes when customer is a payer, the receiver is a shop. We found another context, another words, and those words are tricky because they are popped up because we started to analyze other things that are already presented. So right now, there is no interaction. So this is the interaction, lack of interaction. I couldn't find any interaction between those, naively thinking. I couldn't put that into anything, customer, supplier, those are standalone words. The last thing I'm doing is naming the context. This is like validation whether it really makes sense, because if I cannot find a good name for that, maybe I just went too far. So I name it, user management, storage, employee management, payments, shop, basket. Why is that? Because thanks to that names, I can think, okay, those are still close to each other. Maybe it would be worth to put them together. The tricky part with the boundaries is I cannot give you an answer, do like that, and you will create exactly the same bounded context. There may be similar, but decision-based is basing on the people with whom you are talking with, your business stakeholder. It's based on your personal experience. It's based on your team's experience, and it's based on the conversation you've got within the team. Sometimes the decision is based on the context you already have in your platform. In example, if we already have got some user management system, of course, I won't write it from scratch. I will use something existing, even if it's connected with user management and employee management. I will use it, and that will be separate context. So this is tricky part to look for the context, but hopefully after this presentation you will be familiar with few hints that are relying on the language, on the communication between us that can lead you to some idea. And this idea is a good start. Thanks to such separation, you can do more. What you can do? So first thing, as I said, each bounded context is a different model. Remember about that. You want to keep it separated. You don't want to have a common product. this is different story, but this is really anti-pattern. Depend on the bounded context, you can choose the architecture. And it doesn't matter whether I will put all of that into one monolith, or I will create microservices. For each and every, I can have different architecture. In example, that will be simple CRUD. So use some layered architecture. Here, we already have some third-party system that will maintain our storage, so let's build some facade on top of that. I don't need an architecture at all. Here, the magic happens. This is the greatest value of our project, so let's use some fancy application, heavyweight application like hexagonal architecture or something similar in those two things, because really, here, there will be a lot of changes that are based on, that are driven by business requirements. So I want to keep the domain isolated. Another thing, so this is a key hint, responsibility over one bounded concept should be in one team. Thanks to that, they can make a decision faster. But the cool thing is also that depends on the bounded context and the complexity, internal complexity, I can pick a team. What does it mean? Let's get back to example and let's assume layered architecture, simple facade. So no architecture, clean architecture. If I made a decision like that and I've got a team of new joiners, I won't put them here. Because new joiners in the sense that they are not experienced. So I don't know, 1-2 years of experience. I won't put them here. Because really, here I want to have everything well tested. I want to use some ports and adapter architecture, maybe domain-driven design tactical patterns. I would put them here. Because we are using third-party application, and it will be only thin layer, facade on top of that. Even if they will do some bad things, it will be easy to fix it. If I will have a great experienced developers who are familiar with clean code and quality of it, who proved themselves they are able to maintain the product for years, I'm putting them here. Because this is the type of knowledge I need in that context. So having boundaries between the context gives me additional information. I can, firstly, build a common understanding between me and business, first thing. Second, I can come up with the idea how to divide that. So if that will be monolithical application, this is my modules. If that will be services, this is like services. This is good start for those services. If I'm talking about architecture, I can use the same picture to pick the architecture, where it's the most complex interaction from the business perspective, here and here, where the value from business perspective is here and here. And another thing, I can pick the right teams to implement that. What next? Couple of books. I recommend to read this one, because this is purely about understanding. It gives you even more information that I shared today. I had only a couple of minutes. This is a really good start. From those 3 books, I personally recommend Domain-Driven Design Distilled. This is like a good start, and then you can dive deeper into other. And from my side, that would be all. Thank you very much for staying with me so long. If you have got any questions, I'm yours.